The meeting chamber aboard the Galactic Alliance flagship fell silent as Captain Mark Stevens entered. He was the first human representative to join the Alliance's elite fighting force, and his presence still caused unease among the gathered species. Humans were newcomers, after all, inhabitants of what the Alliance classified as a death world, a planet so hostile that most civilized species considered it uninhabitable. Commander Vex of the Taurian Guard, towering nearly 8 feet tall with his metallic exoskeleton, gestured toward the human. The joint training exercise begins tomorrow. We should discuss protocols to ensure the human's safety. Stevens suppressed a smile. After 6 months aboard, the Alliance species still treated him like he was made of glass. With respect, Commander, I've reviewed the exercise parameters. Standard procedures will be sufficient. Admiral Lorne, the gelatinous leader of the Alliance forces, pulsed blue with concern. Captain Stevens, you must understand that the gravity alone in the training arena will be set to 1.3 standard. For most of our warriors, this requires significant exertion. Earth gravity is 1.6 by your standards, Admiral. I'll manage fine. A ripple of disbelief passed through the assembled officers. Very well, Lorne conceded, but you will notify your team immediately if you experience any distress. The next morning, representatives from 12 species gathered in the observation deck overlooking the training arena. Below, warriors from each world prepared for the combat simulation, a grueling test of strength, endurance, and tactical thinking. Stevens arrived last, dressed in standard Earth military exercise attire, shorts, and a fitted tank top. The sight of so much exposed human skin caused several Alliance officers to avert their eyes, believing he had somehow forgotten his protective gear. Captain, Lieutenant Draz of the Insectoid Hive Collective chittered nervously. Your armor has not been distributed yet. Stevens glanced down at his outfit. This is what we wear for training on Earth. I'll put on the combat gear when the simulation begins. But the initial endurance assessment, I'll be fine, Stevens assured him, stretching his arms overhead. The simple movement revealed the dense musculature of his shoulders and back, causing several nearby warriors to step away instinctively. The first phase of training began with a baseline endurance test, a 5-kilometer run under increasing gravity conditions. The course wound through varying terrain, designed to test adaptability as much as raw stamina. Stevens took his position alongside warriors bred for combat on worlds far more hospitable than Earth. While most were armored against the environment, the human stood exposed, his skin already showing a light sheen of sweat as he performed warm-up exercises that made several observers flinch. When the signal sounded, the assembled warriors began their advance. Most moved with deliberate caution as the gravity increased incrementally. By the first kilometer marker, several had already fallen behind, their specialized physiologies struggling against conditions they rarely encountered. Stevens, however, maintained a steady pace. By the halfway point, where gravity had increased to 1.5 standard, only the most elite warriors remained alongside him. The observers watched in growing disbelief as the human showed no signs of distress. Impossible, whispered Commander Vex to Admiral Lorne. His world cannot possibly be this demanding. And yet, Lorne replied, his gelatinous form pulsing with uncertainty, he appears to be enjoying himself. Indeed, as Stevens reached the 3-kilometer mark, he had begun to overtake the frontrunners. His running form remained efficient, his breathing controlled. When the gravity increased to 1.8 standard, the highest level considered safe for most Alliance species, Stevens actually increased his pace. By the time he crossed the finish line, a full minute ahead of the nearest competitor, the observation deck had fallen completely silent. The human wasn't even breathing particularly hard. That was a good warm-up, Stevens remarked as he accepted a hydration pack from a stunned attendant. When does the actual training begin? Admiral Lorne floated forward. Captain, you must understand. What you just demonstrated exceeds the combat readiness requirements for our most elite warriors. The gravity at the final stretch exceeds anything encountered on all the most extreme worlds. Stevens looked confused, but this was just the warm-up, right? On Earth, our soldiers run twice this distance as part of basic training, under full pack weight. The silence that followed was absolute. "What exactly is Earth like?" asked a voice from the back of the observation deck. It belonged to General Thule of the mountain-dwelling Krell, a species known for their endurance. Stevens considered the question. "It's just home. High gravity compared to most Alliance worlds, I guess. Extreme temperature variations. Diverse terrain, oceans, deserts, mountains, forests. Most regions experience seasonal changes, so we adapt to different conditions throughout the year." "And all humans can perform like this?" Commander Vex asked, his voice uncharacteristically quiet. No, Stephens laughed. "I'm just moderately fit by our standards. Our elite athletes and special forces operators are on another level entirely." The implications settled over the room like a physical weight. Humans didn't just survive on their death world. They thrived there, their bodies forged by evolutionary pressures that would crush most sentient species. That evening, Admiral Lorne convened an emergency meeting of the Alliance High Command. The training exercise data had been analyzed, and the conclusions were unavoidable. Humanity's baseline physical capabilities exceeded those of the Alliance's most enhanced warriors. "The integration of human forces into our ranks presents both opportunity and concern," Lorne stated to the assembled leaders. "Their death world has created natural soldiers unlike any we have encountered." In the quarters assigned to him, Stevens recorded his daily log, unaware of the ripples his performance had caused. Day 184 aboard the Alliance flagship. Participated in what they called an extreme training exercise today. Trying not to make them uncomfortable, but it seems I'll need to hold back, even more than I've been doing. Still, it's fascinating to see how different evolutionary paths have led to such diverse adaptations. Looking forward to learning more from these allies, even if they do seem terrified by a simple jog.